What are days for? Days are where we live. They come. They wake us time and time over. They are to be happy in. Where can we live but days?
I'm the clock custodian, and I look after all the clocks in the building. Now, how this Greenwich Time Ball and what it was used for, time was literally all over the place. It was all over the place, depending on what the church clock said. What was established by the British Parliament was to have a uniform time. So what they did was they introduced, and it was a wonderful idea, and this was in the 1870s, they introduced what they call radio telegraphy. Can you remember the telegraph poles alongside the railway lines? Yeah, there was millions of them, and they were everywhere. That was called the permanent way, was the railway, was called the permanent way. From these poles, there was a telegraph wire going right through the country, and it went to the principal post offices in the cities, every city, and it was linked in to Greenwich, where there was a booster in there, and literally with the mercury clocks which they had, they could damn near get exact time. Now, when it came up to 12 noon, they used to literally put a beam, IFC, used to press the button, boom, and then all the clocks used, if they were slow, would go click, 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 to 12 noon, or if they were slow, they would stop until the time caught up. So then we got a uniformity of time. What happened in Hull, the city of Kingston upon Hull, a maritime city? How the hell are they going to set chronometers in the river? Well, they can't, and that's it. So, the thing that did here, they introduced the Greenwich Time Ball above the new Guildhall. The town hall was opened in 1866. It was only 50 years older than the pulled it down. And they built this new one, and this new one is the largest Guildhall in Britain. The Greenwich Time Ball. It was mounted at the top of the bell tower, which is, I believe, well, I know it's 168 foot. Now, just before 12 noon, the time ball was raised electronically from a pulsinetic time transmitter, and it transmitted these bleeps to the clocks in the Guildhall. Just before 12 noon, the two DC motors in the tower raised this time ball up, and then it was held by two solenoids. These were magnetic brakes, and they held it until the time signal comes through. From the Guildhall to the post office, there was a catenary wire, big supporting wire. And this supporting wire, it held the cable that had the time signal on it. And this wire passed over Alfred Gill's Street, which carried the time line, and then found its little way up to the time ball mechanism. When they released the time in Greenwich, all the clocks, in principal post offices, principal railway stations, and whole Greenwich Time Ball, they were released. Then the time ball descended. Now, I come from originally a seafaring family, and in the Humber, in the River Hull, in the dock, so the ships in the aforementioned places, they could all look up at the tide ball. The officer of the watch would be there with the radio operator, who had in his hands the chronometer, the ship's chronometer. And as soon as the ball fell, the officer of the watch, he would say, time! And then he would reset the chronometer. When the time ball fell, that denoted correct time. Now, they couldn't rely on the hour bell in the Guildhall, which is some 2.5 tons. But you have to bear in mind, these were sailing schooners. The clatter of the halyards. Now, you won't be able to hear the bell striking the hour, and it wouldn't be as accurate because the speed of sound is very, 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 very much slower than what the speed of vision is. And the speed of vision is if you turn your head and look to whatever you put your eyes on. That vision has travelled to your retina at 282.42 thousand miles a second. But bear in mind how clever they were years ago.
What are days for? Days are where we live. They come, they wake us time and time over. They are to be happy in. Where can we live but days?